Hi, this video is going to talk about how to factor trinomials. Before this lesson, you should have learned how to factor difference of two squares. At the end of this video, you should be able to factor trinomials with leading coefficient of 1. If you look at the model here, in front of x squared is no other than 1, followed by the x term and the constant. Let's begin with a review of your FOIL. Let's have an example. You have x plus 3 is multiplied to x plus 2. By distributive property, it's actually FOIL, which is first is the x times x, O, which is outer, is x times 2, I is the inner, 3 times x, and L is the last among the pairs, is 3 times 2. And that's the result after simplifying, and you always end up supposed to be combining the outer and the inner because they are usually like terms, and it becomes 5x. And that's how you do FOIL. When you are going to factor, you are supposed to be given a expression and your answer is supposed to be the parenthesis form. That's how you do factoring. It's actually, factoring is the reverse of multiplying, or in this case, it's the reverse of FOIL. Let's proceed. The first case is the case of trinomial squares, and then afterwards we will have the general method. All problems that are considered trinomial squares will be able to be factored by taking the square roots of the first and the last term. Look at your example. This is the case of a trinomial square wherein the first term is a perfect square and then the last term is also a perfect square. If we're going to factor, you just factor your first term, x times x, and then 49 is 7 times 7. Since this is negative, this is the case where you have a repeat of negative. Because if one is negative and the other is positive, it will result to the difference of two squares. So if you have a repeat of the sign, it's either minus minus or plus plus, that will result to a trinomial squares. So let's do the checking. If you are going to perform FOIL, x times x is x squared, the outer is negative 7x, the inner is negative 7x, and then the outer term gives you a positive 49. That makes sense that if you combine your outer and inner, it gives you back your middle term, negative 14x, and that is a verification that indeed this is a correct factor. Remember that we were able to factor it by just using your first term and your last term, and by doing the FOIL, it checks out that combining your outer and inner indeed gives you negative 14x. But actually, negative 14x is not part of the first steps in factoring a trinomial square. It's the factor of the x squared and the last term, x times x, and then 7 and 7. If it's negative, it's both minus. If it's a positive here, it's supposed to be both plus. Otherwise, if it's not a trinomial square, then it follows a general trinomial factoring method. This expression, since it's a repeat, sometimes books or tests can also simplify this further into just a expression, the square of x minus 7. If you see this, it means it's a multiplication to itself. To make it simpler, the expression x minus 7 times x minus 7 can be written as the square of x minus 7. Okay, let's proceed. And that's supposed to be the final answer of the factor of x squared minus 14x plus 49. Now this is the general trinomials, and this one also works for trinomial squares. We will focus on factoring general trinomials with leading coefficient of 1. We will spend another lesson for those given with a number in front of the x squared. Remember, factoring is like backwards FOIL. This time we're going to learn how to solve if the x term has no coefficient other than 1. With the first example, x squared plus 7x plus 12. So you see there's no 1 here. I mean, there's no number here, but actually it's 1. What is the step? First, you list all pairs of numbers that multiply to equal to constant 12. Unlike with your trinomial squares, this one is a perfect square supposed to be. Since it's not a perfect square, then it's a case of general trinomial. So what do? First step, you list the factors of 12. What are the factors of 12? 1 times 12, 2 times 3, no, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. Next step, it's going to be on the next slide. After listing the factors of 12, you are going to figure out which pair actually adds up to the middle coefficient, which is 7x. So if you add this, which adds up to 7x? Actually, it's very clear. 3/4 adds up to 7x. Since we all know that x squared has a factor of x times x, so it's going to be like this: x times x, and then the factors of 12 is 3 times 4. And then we just fill it up. If we are going to perform checking, remember, outer is 4x, inner is 3x, 3x plus 4x is 7x. Therefore, indeed, this is the correct factor of x squared plus 7x plus 12. In your perfect square trinomial, the same rules follow. You factor, remember your example, it was a 49, so you have 7 and 7. Since it's not a perfect square, this is how it's gonna be. Let's have another example. And that's the final presentation of your answer. Another example, you have x squared plus 2x minus 24. First, you should notice that it's negative now. It makes the problem a little more work. List all the pairs of the factors of negative 24. There's a lot because of the variation of the first term is negative and then the other is negative. So if 24 is just positive, so it's gonna be only 4 possible factors, but since it's negative, it makes it 8 because of the combination of one is negative, the other is positive. Your next deal is which pairs adds up to the coefficient of the middle term, which is 2, the 2x. Scrutinizing every pair, negative 4 and 6 adds up to positive 2. And therefore, write down your factors of x times x, and then your pair is negative 4 and 6. X times x is from the x squared factor. 24 is negative 4 and 6. Why did we choose them? Because it adds up to the positive 2x. Otherwise, you're going to perform the actual FOIL, which will let you find the 2x. Of course, x times x is x squared. Negative 4 times 6 is negative 24. Where did 2x come from? Well, if you have negative 4x plus positive 6x, the inner plus the outer, you get positive 2x. That's how you factor general trinomial. Let's have another example. Number 3. Factor x squared minus 11x plus 24. So by now you should have already figured out that you are going to start by factoring 24. Now, what you need to notice is that the middle factor is negative, but the last term is a positive. It means, supposed to be, both numbers are, the factors of 24 should be negative. Because negative times negative will give you positive, but when you add the two numbers, it gives you negative 11. Here are the lists. We didn't include positive because positive times positive, it's not gonna give us negative 11 unless you're gonna list them down, but it's not gonna be positive times positive because it's not gonna give you a sum of the factor of negative 11. So which of the following factors of positive 24, which is negative times negative, gives you a sum of negative 11. The answer is negative 3 and negative 8. Negative 3 times negative 8 is a positive 24. Negative 3 plus negative 8 is negative 11. So that will be your pairs of the x's. And that's your answer. X minus 3 times x minus 8. Easy, right? I hope so. Here are your practice problem. And I'll give you time to figure them out. And then I will show the solution. Let's begin. Number 1, here is the solution. Of course, factors of negative 21 are the following. Which of the following adds up to negative 4? It should be this one. Nope, negative 4 and 3. Then your answer is here. T plus 3, t minus 7. Let's proceed to number 2. Here's your problem. All positive, so nothing to worry about negatives. So you have factors of 32. There's no other possible factors, and which adds up to 12. Obviously, it's the third one. And that's gonna be the pairs of the x's. X plus 4, x plus 8. And number 3. Here it is. Positive, negative. It means we are looking for both negative factors of 24. List down all the negative supposed to be. So here it shows all positive, but nothing will add up to negative 10. So we will list all the negative. All the negatives are here, and which adds up to 10. It should be this one. So that will be your factors. X minus 4 multiplied to x minus 6. And lastly, we have number 4. This time, you have a negative and a positive. It means the factors of 18 you're looking for, one is negative, the other is positive. Let's list your factors of negative 18. Which of the following factors adds up to positive 3? And it should be this one. And that's it. You have x minus 3 and x plus 6. You may review this video if you need to. The next lesson will be a case of factoring where there's a number or coefficient in front of x squared. Remember, you should have learned by now how to factor general trinomial with a leading coefficient of 1. Thank you.